We're recording. We're recording. It isn't the mountains ahead that wear you down. It's the pebble in your shoe. Grasshoppers, greetings and salutations. This is the Formless podcast number 85 with me, Dustin, and Tyler, the superhuman.
How we doing? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Life is good. Life is good. It's Saturday, 4 days before Christmas, which is always a hectic time of the year for everyone, I think. I think that's a mutually shared stress, you know?
We get about this close to Christmas and we're like, okay, let's just get through it. It's almost like our minds are already past Christmas, right?
Well, like, we're discussing, you and I, before we started, we were discussing, like, what we're going to do for next year. What our plans were and all of this stuff. It's like you're finalizing everything. Everything's kind of coming to a conclusion, and you finished out 2024. What are we doing for 2025? What guests are we gonna get? What's the game plan? All of that stuff. It's always one of two things for me personally for Christmas, because it either goes super smooth and everything's like well thought out and prepared, or it's just complete utter chaos. And because I always tell people, because I have a fairly big family and then I got 3 kids of my own. I think it starts in March. My little sister's birthday is March, and then it goes all the way until May every year. And so like March, my sister's birthday, and there's something going on every month for the whole year.
March, April,
May, June, July, August, all of them. There's something big going on every month until May. That's when my parents' birthdays are. And then so like, but Thomas's birthday is the 8th of December. Cole's is the 30th of November. Our wedding anniversary is the 6th of December. Hunter's birthday is January. My birthday's, and then my father-in-law's birthday is January. My birthday's in February. My wife's birthday's in October. I mean, it's just like bang, 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 bang. And so like some years we're totally prepped and like we've got stuff done in like September. We're ready. We might have to buy like a gift or do something, but we're all set up. And then like this year, nothing's ready. And then it's like, tomorrow is your son's birthday. Oh crap. We're going to go birthday shopping tonight, And that's how it's been this year. This year is just utter chaos. And
wow.
We just started Christmas shopping for the boys like 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
Really?
Literally. Because things are tight. Brighton's going to school, and like most of the time, excuse me, I start work as early as I can, somewhere between 5 and 5:15. Late for me is 5:30 in the morning. And then I work until I'm done. And some days I get off at noon. Some days I get off at 3. It just depends on what I've got going on that day. And then, depending on how late I stayed up the night before, I might come home and take a nap for 20 minutes to an hour. It just depends on how beat up I am. And then it's like, what are we going to do? We got to get dinner. We got to get, shopping,
The checklist.
And then this last couple of weeks, Brighton's been doing finals. So she's been like, don't talk to me. I got to take a test in an hour and I got this term paper to turn in. I got this thing to do, blah, blah, blah. So it's just been like, everything's been put on hold. Well, now it's like we can't hold it off anymore. All of the fingers are in the dam, you know, and now it's time to come to pay the piper, you know. So it's you know, I was talking about chaos this morning. We were talking about we were training, we were talking a little bit about chaos and how I don't think I deal with chaos very well. Like, I like to have my stuff in order and
consistent. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And this year, I think the big lesson that I've had to learn is just go with the flow, just embrace the chaos, because nothing has worked out like how, you know, I plan stuff in my head and I'm like, okay, Tyler and I are going to do this on Saturday. We're going to do the podcast. We'll teach a lesson, blah, blah, blah. And like, I kind of work everything out in my head. And then when it doesn't go according to what I have planned, I get all bitter.
Yep.
You know, I'm all frustrated and kicking the dirt. And so this year, I think the big lesson for me has been just like, let it go. Like, just embrace the fact that it's not going to go the way you planned it. And that's been a bitter, hard lesson to learn for me. Personally.
It's like the deeper the root, you know, the more it's entrenched in there, you know, it's got all its like little offshoots, and so that must be a hard root to get rid of. Like, that must be entrenched, or maybe it's not.
No, it's totally entrenched. And then also, like, you know, I got kids. And they all have lives of their own that they're, you know, doing stuff, and it doesn't always go in according to your plans, and you just have to, like, if you're in the right frame of mind, you can deal with it just like anything else, right? But if you're like, I need to be somewhere in 20 minutes and you've only got one shoe on, kid, like, we're gonna go and you're gonna have one shoe and it's raining, so like, figure it out, dude.
Wow. Yeah. So just going with the chaos.
And it's not,
maybe that's a bad way to say it.
No, it's not necessarily like chaos, but it is. But just like going for all of those things that you didn't have a contingency plan for. It's like, oh, that's new. That's a surprise. Like, my water heater rusted out. Right?
Don't you hate that? I've had that happen.
And it sucks. It's not like a deal breaker, but it's like, it's $1,000. A new water heater is $1,000. You can get a cheap one for like $600.
Was that a tank or a tank?
It was a tank. It was a tank. But it's Christmas time, you know? And it's like, oh, that's $1,000.
Yeah.
So big shout out to Dad there. He helped me out considerably for that one. But yeah, you know, it's just the unexpected stuff. It's like, hey, wait a minute. I didn't plan for that. You know, like, your car breaks down. You don't plan for your car to break down.
No.
You do preventative maintenance, so hopefully it lasts as long as it can. You change the oil, you know, rotate the tires, you do all that stuff. But if the timing belt breaks, you're up the creek. You know, that's what this was. It's like, yeah, and it gave me a warning. It started leaking, right? I'm like, oh wow. That's water that wasn't there before. And then it started raining, so I couldn't tell how bad it was leaking because it's outside. It's in an enclosure, but it's in the elements. It started pouring rain. We've had tons of rain lately. So I was like, where's the water? Is the water from the tank, or is it just from the rain? What's going on? And then it cleared up. We got a little bit of a break a couple of weeks back. And I was like, oh, okay, that's water from the water heater. So bite that bullet, you know.
Did you install it yourself? Or
Yeah. Well, that would have been another $1,000 to have water, you know, a plumber come out, I'm sure. No, I'm cheap that way.
That's not cheap.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's not. I just need a YouTube video. Like,
yeah. No,
some wrenches.
I've done water heaters before, but usually, like if it's something I don't know how to do, YouTube's your best friend.
YouTube.
Yeah.
I had my water heater go out too, and I installed a.
Did you do a tankless?
A tankless, yeah. I was like, I'm not going back to the tank, but mine did the same thing. It rusted out, and so I got a tankless, and man, there's no going back to a tank for me.
Like instant, huh?
Oh well, it's almost instant. You turn it on, and it takes maybe 5 seconds, but it's on, and then you can dial in the different heat you want, like on the digital thing.
Oh, it's cold this week. I want to turn that up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I got mine at 117 degrees. Or 115, one of those. Like, and so it's Anyways, so that was my thing. I was like, man, like I can't, like I'm not paying. I can't afford to have someone come out and do and it was fun because I did it. I figured it out myself with like some YouTube videos, and I was just like, oh, you look where the old one was, and I'm like, oh, there's like 3 connections or whatever it was,
Yeah. Well, you got your hot, your cold, and then you have your heating element.
Yeah.
In my instance, it's gas or propane.
Propane. Yeah,
so so it's not too terribly difficult, but.
Do you guys have a big propane tank outside your house?
Yeah, huge one.
I heard this. I don't know if you knew this. This is just a little factoid. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that with hot water tanks, you can't hook up to a big tank. You can't hook up like a 5-gallon
propane
tank.
Oh, really?
It's got to be a big one because it's got to have a certain amount of pressure. Now I know you'd have a regulator at the end of that, but I actually heard firsthand a house that I was in charge of, as I was trying to sell this house. It was my friend's house. He passed and left it in my care to sell for him. And so, but somebody was living with him, and they hooked up to this hot water heater. They hooked up a 5-gallon
propane
tank, and
like
it
a barbecue tank.
Yeah, like what you put under a barbecue tank, and it ruined the hot water heater. And the only way I found out about it is before he passed, I was over at his house, and he's like, yeah, we just had a new hot water tank installed. And I looked over in his garage, it's brand new, nice big tank. And then after he passed, I was getting the propane topped off in the big tank outside of his house that feeds his house. And the guy's like, yeah, they hooked up a 5-gallon tank. They ran out of propane on the big tank outside the house, and then
they hooked up the 5-gallon tank.
Yeah, and they hooked up the 5-gallon tank, and it ruined it. And he's like, that'll do it. And so the guy filling up the big propane tank outside is like, don't hook up a little one to your tank. So I'm like, oh, mental note there.
Lesson learned.
Yeah. So,
wow. Well,
little factoid.
At least you didn't have to learn that one the hard way, right?
Somebody else learned it.
Someone else learned it the hard way. Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. So, but anyways, yeah. So like you probably expanded your knowledge by having to hook a propane tank up before.
Yeah.
You never had to do it before.
Yeah. I replaced hot water heaters before, but
I mean the hot water.
Yeah. But it's just one of those things. It's like I didn't plan for this.
No.
And normally that really ticks me off, right? Like, stuff's not working, life's in chaos, I've got all this other stuff to deal with, and this happens. I'm not planned, I don't have any time for that. I don't have time for this. And you just have to kind of, okay. If I'm in the right frame of mind, I can, okay, we can deal with this. It's not that big of an issue. It's just a setback,
and you figured it out.
You figured it out. Yeah. Time is the older I get, the busier I am, the more work I do with my job and teaching and everything else, the more I realize how precious time is. And that's when if I'm thinking about that, that's when I get really frustrated when something like that happens. Because I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'm like, and it's always when like 4 other things are going on. It's never the perfect time. It's life. It's never, you don't break down on the side of the highway when you have free time. right? It's
You're
always when you're trying to do something, you're trying to get somewhere, you're trying to be somewhere, and that's when the crap happens.
Yep.
And
yep. That makes for good drama too.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Makes for good drama.
So that hot water here that broke this
It was about 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I replaced it. When it was last week. I can't even remember right now. I wrote it down somewhere.
After hearing that story, you know, it's Christmas time, and you hear about somebody's hot water heater breaking, and you think that song, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Oh.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I mean, and we've definitely had a lot of. It's been cold around here, and the rain. It's been raining a lot.
For sure, and foggy and snow.
Yeah, we haven't really got any. I mean, maybe you have.
I got not where I live particularly. It doesn't. It snows maybe once a year at our place, but on my route for work, like I go to Weaverville, I go to Hayfork, they got a little bit of snow.
Really?
So last Monday, went to Hayfork, which is this tiny little remote logging town. It's about 20 something odd miles outside of Reading, and then it's another, once you turn off the main highway to this side road to go to this town, it's another 26 miles of windy road to get there. And you have to go over a summit that's about 3,500 feet, 3,000 feet, somewhere around there. And that summit got some snow. So Monday morning I'm driving and I'm like, it's cold. I wonder if there's snow on the mountain. Should I take the truck? Nah, I'll just take the car. It gets better gas mileage, and you know, it'll be fine. I get up to the top of that mountain, and it's got some snow. And the plows had luckily, I timed it just right, because the plows had just gone through, but it started snowing after they had gone by. So the road was all slushy and everything.
Getting a little bit snow again.
And that road is windy. So instead of doing my normal 50, 55 miles an hour through there, it was like 20 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour at some points. And so it's about 45 minutes, half hour, depending on road conditions and who you're following. If you follow a logging truck into the town of Hayfork, you're in for a while. You're in for a little while. It's going to take you a while. But that was the longest trip into Hayfork that I've ever had, because it was slow.
Ooh,
Slow moving. But it was cool. It was beautiful, and just I got to listen to a lot of podcasts, so it was cool. You make the best of it.
You make podcasts and you still listen to podcasts.
Yeah, pretty much all day at work, every day. Every once in a while I listen to music, but for the most part I listen to a lot of podcasts. Spend a lot of time in the car. So
how far from right here, right where we are, how far is Hayfork? If you drove the speed limit.
It's
under ideal conditions.
Yeah, well, it's about 10, 15 miles to my house from here. And it's another 40 or 50 miles
from your house?
From my house to Hayfork. Yeah.
Okay.
So
it's up there.
It's, round trip, it's probably 120, 130 miles.
Interesting.
Not bad. If it was a straight shot, it'd be super simple. But it's not. It's windy. It's windy. I've got a few interesting photos from Hayfork, so I should post those when I post this episode.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Hayfork's a cool little town. It's a cool little town.
I don't think I've been there since I was a kid. Maybe not. Maybe I've been through it, but yeah, I do remember. I went to that fair in Hayfork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they still do that. They have a bunch of stuff. The town. I think if you live in the town, you wear mini hats, because there's only like 2,500, 3,000 people that live in town.
Huh.
And there's a lot of little outlying communities, but yeah, like one of the guys that runs the grocery store is also on the city council, he's also on the school board, he's also a volunteer firefighter. Like, you just do
a lot.
There's
wear multiple hats.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people to take up the mantle, so yeah, it's fun. It's cool. A cool town.
I like those little towns like that are,
it's
people wear multiple hats, and everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, that has its downfalls, in my opinion, but it has a lot of positives too.
Mm-hmm.
And like everyone knows what everyone else is going through, and oh, hey, you got a new truck, like type thing. And they're like, oh, there he goes driving down the street.
It could definitely be a positive. It could be a negative. Too. Like, everyone knows the infamous there too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think it's something like in there, like you can get a lot of help. Like, so if you lived in like a little town like that, like Hayfork,
mm-hmm.
and everyone knows everyone, well, when your hot water heater broke, you could have called.
Yeah.
You probably would have had 10 people lining up. Let me help.
Yeah.
And not saying, I'm not putting, I'm saying, I'm
yeah,
saying that's the type of culture
it's a community.
A community.
Yeah. And like where I live now, I definitely have that.
Okay.
Like I'm real good friends with both neighbors. And it's one of the reasons why I'm still there. It's like a huge reason why I'm still there, is because like, if something happened, I know I could call one of those two people and they'd be like, yeah, no problem. We call each other all the time. It's like, hey, I'm running to the grocery store. You need anything? Or hey, did I lock my front door? Or, just simple, stupid little things like that. But there's a real sense of community.
Yeah. That's
it's
cool.
Really cool.
That's cool to have that and have good neighbors like that.
Yeah, it's a rare thing for sure. For sure. The last, almost every place I've lived in before this place, I don't think we knew our neighbors. I know the last house I lived in before this house, I didn't even know. I lived in that house for over a year and didn't even see my neighbors.
Wow.
So, yeah. I don't think I saw them one time.
That's cool though, that like where you're at now, you're friends with your neighbors. Like, you guys can hang out.
Oh yeah, do barbecues or
have that
fire
community.
Pit and yeah, that's a rare thing for sure. It's belonging to something is helpful too. Like we have that kind of here at the school. There's a sense of community.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, like with our black belt test that we just did not too long ago. Practically the whole school was here, along with their families and all of that. So yeah, it's cool. Everybody helps each other out.
A lot of we punch each other.
Yeah.
Each other. And we got the Christmas tree out there, and everyone puts on their ornament, and I don't think I have yet. But,
well, you got a couple days. That's always cool to see. All the little guys that have their ornaments up throughout the years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Gosh. Yeah. And then some of them that put their pictures, and then you see them from like 5 years ago when they're really, really small, and now they're grown. You see their picture. Yeah. I think there's some picture. Did Hunter and Coltrane and Tom?
We have a family ornament up. It's the picture of our family. But yeah, in the past we've done individuals, like the individual kids ornaments. It was just like their school picture or something like that. But the last, I think 3 or 4 years, we've just done a family picture.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's rad.
Yeah, it's awesome. Gosh.
I kind of wanted to keep talking about that quote of yours that you
It isn't the
let's
mountain
hear-
ahead that wears you down. It is the pebble in your shoe.
Yeah, that's a good one. I can't tell you how many times I've been hunting, right, in the mountains.
Yeah.
and you're walking around, and all of a sudden you feel something in your boot or your shoe, and you're like, I don't want to stop and undo my laces and take it out, and you just kind of like try to squish the pebble over with your toe or something.
Trying
right?
to tough it out.
Yeah, tough it over, tough it out, and then eventually you're just like, man, I gotta stop and take this pebble out. Then I can mount this or go up this mountain, you know. That's
so it's that's a quote that, you know, it can have many analogies, but
tell me.
Well, you can look at that multiple ways. You know, the mountain is a life goal.
Right, that's the way I look at it.
And the pebble's a distraction.
Yeah.
You know, there's all sorts of stuff. But why I picked that is kind of a funny story. There's a car show that my dad and my brothers and various different people in our lives would go to down in Bakersfield. And we went pretty consecutively for about 5-6 years. And we'd take the weekend off and go. It's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you know, come home Sunday kind of thing. And it's at an old drag strip. And there's a swap meet. There's just tons and tons of events at this thing. And it's all weekend long. And you're walking like everywhere. Because the drag strip's a quarter of a mile long.
Okay.
At the end of the quarter mile, that's where the swap meet is. And then there's a car show alongside the drag strip, and then there's food and concession stands and stuff. So it's just this huge area of space. Well, to get anywhere, you walk, unless you have a golf cart, which some guys do, but like we walk everywhere. So it's nothing to put in a 10-mile walk during the day.
Okay.
Like it, absolutely nothing. Like you probably average 10 miles, like, you know, unless you just watch the drag races the whole time, which you get bored of that. And they take breaks, the car breaks down and they oils the track. They got to take an hour and a half to clean it. So there's other stuff to do. So you walk around. Well, I used to wear Converse tennis shoes for years. Converse have no sole. They have like, they're just flat, right? This must have been, I must have hit 30, so 15 years ago, 14 years ago, something like that. Getting a little older, my feet aren't what they used to be. I'm wearing Converse tennis shoes, and I'm walking like all over the place. And I've always been able to walk, because growing up with my dad, he was like, keep up. We're not stopping. Like, you're gonna walk. We go hiking, fishing, hunting, and stuff. And he would always be like, "You can't come with me if you're gonna be crying about your feet being tired or whatever. I ain't carrying you. You gotta walk," kind of thing. So it gave me a couple things. Gave me some thick skin, and it gave me the ability to learn how to walk. Right. Well, we're all together and we're walking around, checking stuff out, and my feet are killing me. But I'm not going to be the guy that's like, hold up, guys, I have to sit down.
I got to take this.
I'm going to let somebody else do this, right? All day long, walking. And my feet hurt so bad.
They have no support.
They have zero support. Zero. At the end of the day, I could barely walk. We got back to the hotel room and there was a Target across the street. And so I walked to Target and bought a new pair of tennis shoes.
Right there.
Right then and there. It was like, I didn't care what they looked like. They were horrendous. They were like the cheap shoes, but they had an arch support in them. And I literally hobbled to Target, walked in, found a pair of shoes that fit, put them, paid for them obviously, put them on and tossed the shoes in the trash can on my way out.
You were done with
Oh,
Converse.
that I haven't wore a pair since.
Ooh.
And now, like, now I'm really picky. I'm like, they need to be comfortable. My feet have to be taken care of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I read that quote. I was looking for quotes to read, and I saw that, and I'm like, oh, that's applicable. That fits me.
Except in this case, it wasn't a pebble; it was a pair of shoes that you were wearing. The shoes themselves, like.
Yeah.
But that was good. I mean, that's instead of having to take a pebble out, you just had to pitch the whole pair of shoes.
Try it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, how many times have we, like, just with our podcast, we have a goal in mind, and then like something else sidelines us.
Yep.
Yeah, or like we're working towards black belt, and something else sidelines us. COVID, or you get sick, or you. It's like this thing hobbles you, and you have to like, okay, well, I got to take care of this thing.
Yeah.
The goal's still there. It didn't go anywhere. The goal hadn't changed. We just have to adjust, rearrange, remove the pebble, continue.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think underlying a lot of that too is like priorities.
Mm-hmm.
The priority of what it is. Like your hot water heater breaking, that's a pretty significant priority.
Yeah.
Like no hot shower in the winter. Like
that's gonna be a problem. Or cooking.
Or cooking.
Yeah, or washing dishes, or any of those things.
I think you can get away with washing dishes with cold water.
You can also get away with taking cold showers.
Yeah, you're right. You can. You're absolutely right.
You won't need any coffee.
No.
You'll be awake when you get out of that shower, especially when it's 30 degrees.
Yeah, you might need some medication when you get sick from taking a cold shower. But
absolutely.
Absolutely.
No.
But yeah, no. So the priorities, like, so that's like a priority, and like I still remember one morning when we were training for our black belt,
mm-hmm.
and I woke up and I wanted to text everyone and be like, I'm not gonna be there.
Can't make it.
Yeah, I can't make it. And I was just gonna sleep for another hour. And I remember telling myself, like, no, like there's a date set for your black belt. This is like, what is more important than this right now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, get your
butt out of bed. Let's
bed.
go.
Yeah. So I mean, that's one of those things. Like, so the priorities. So like, that's get, like you said, getting sidetracked on the podcast or whatever your goals are, and it's like I've really been in a time recently where I'm like reprioritizing everything. Like, what's
really important?
What's important? Yeah. Where am I spending my time?
Mm-hmm.
That's the most valuable commodity we really have.
Yeah.
Is where do we spend our time? You only have so much time, and you really don't know how much time you have.
That's the wonderful mystery of life there.
You just don't know.
You don't know.
And but yeah, just like reprioritizing, and I think that's definitely been an area that I've been really working on, and like, okay, if I'm gonna spend the next couple of year or so of my life on the next movie I'm doing, like, well, that better be a really good film that I want to spend my time on, versus just like taking the first thing that comes along. Like, you're kind of marrying into it in a way.
Absolutely. You have to commit.
A project.
Now, you've been doing that for a long time. You've been making movies and working on movie sets and stuff. I mean, as long as I've known you.
About 10 years now.
Yeah.
I graduated film school 10 years ago.
Okay. So you've worked on quite a few independent movies and stuff.
And shows, reality shows, hunting shows.
You did reality show? Oh, you did a hunting show. I know that.
Yeah, I worked on a reality show called Bar Rescue, where they...
You worked on that show?
Yeah, did you see it?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I worked on I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes in Reno and in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't even seen the episodes, but
Really?
I worked on them. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Learned something new today. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, what were you gonna say?
well, that totally sidetracked me. Oh man.
I know everyone here is Bar Rescue, and they want to talk about the host, John Taffert. I think
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Taffert.
He's been around. He's
Yeah.
been on a couple of different things.
Has he?
I think so.
Yeah, I got to talk to him a few times, but I didn't. When I was on the set of Bar Rescue, like I just knew him as the host, and I had never seen the show, and so people that would see him would be like, "Oh man, that's John," and I'm
Freak
just like,
out about it.
yeah, and and I'm just like, oh, and I would just go up and talk to him like I didn't like he was just a normal guy. Yeah,
Which he is.
Yeah, which he is. Yeah,
He puts his shoes on like everyone else.
Yep. Yeah. So it was interesting that way. But anyways, what were you saying?
So, what I was going to say is that, we're kind of dancing around the topic here, but one of my favorite quotes from somebody that I found real inspirational is Sensei Blue. He always says, "Stay on your goal.
Stay on
your goal." And the setbacks are just that. That pebble in your shoe is that's exactly what it is. It's just a little setback. And if you focus on the pebble, you lose sight of the goal. You lose sight of the mountain. And it's easy to talk about. It's really hard to do. It's real hard to do.
That's for sure.
Yeah. But you've been doing that for 10 years. Movie stuff and TV show stuff and everything.
Yeah, I graduated 10 years ago in 2014 from San Jose State. So.
Wow, that's crazy. Fast. It's fast.
I can remember my graduation day just like it was I can just remember it like it was yesterday. And then at that point, when I graduated, that was 10 years from my high school graduation. And I can still remember that day. And it's like time just flies.
But did you think, okay, I graduated college, I went to school for filmmaking, I'm gonna make films. Just like that? Did you think like
No,
you did you had that foresight to know better?
Well, I just graduated film school, and you just kind of had these like vague, nebulous out there hopes like, okay, well, I'm going to start working in the industry, and then I'll work my way up through the positions, and then hopefully I'll get to direct a film or be in a film one day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really, but I didn't go into it like saying I'm going to graduate film school and
And
I'm
then
going to make
somebody's just going to call me up and I'll be in the movie.
Yeah. No,
Didn't work that way.
didn't work that way, and that's not how I didn't have that clear of a goal back then.
Well, you didn't. I was going to say something. Don't take this as insulting. You didn't have that naivety. Naivety. I can't speak. You know what word I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
You weren't naive.
Naive, yeah.
Yeah. You weren't naive to the idea. Like you knew better. You knew that like this isn't like some magic formula is going to happen. I graduated college and I'm just going to go like knock on somebody's door and they're like, "Oh, Tyler, here's a job.
Here's a check. Here's a check to make your movie."
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Some people were like that.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of people, especially young people, that were just thinking the world was going to open up to them when they graduated, and I had to work for it.
Yeah. So does I think most people do.
Yep.
So how long was it from when you graduated to when you actually like got a job making a movie or working in a movie?
Well, I graduated, whatever, May or June of 2014, and then I had a film came up that was filming in that area, and I got on with that a couple months later. So I had one pretty quickly come up, and I got on with it. And
so you were staying down there.
Yeah, in San Jose. I graduated San Jose State, stayed in the same housing I was there, which was off campus, and then got on a movie set down there. And I still remember I worked on the movie set for 3 weeks, and I got paid $300, and I wasn't really paid. It was just a gas stipend, like fuel, for me to drive to and from the set. So $100 a week for me to drive to and from the set. Ouch. But what's interesting is that, so I did that, right? And everyone's like, they're like, wow, man, I had one person on the film set say, well, it's like you're made to work on a film set. And I was like, well, I think that was the military. Like, the military is very structured, very compartmentalized at times, and that just translated well onto film sets. Fun fact, I don't know if you knew this, the studio system back in like when the movie studios, when they were big in like the 30s, 40s, 50s, that studio system, when they really started getting into the golden age of the studio system was after World War II, when you had all these World War II veterans
come home,
and
this is how we're going to do it. They lined it all out.
Yeah, and the studio system became very efficient after that because the vets ran things how they ran in the military, and it just became very, very, this is how we're going to do things. There's a conveyor belt type thing, like, assembly line type thing of how we're going to do it, and that's how it became. So anyway, so that translated well, and then, but driving back and forth on that film set every day for 3 weeks, I met someone on that film set who then recommended that I take a script supervising course down in Santa Monica, the same script supervising course that person had taken. It was the script supervisor on the film I was working on.
Oh, okay.
She recommended this course, which that course led me, I finished that film, and then a couple months later I was like, you know what, I need to continue my training. And so I went down to that script supervising course in Santa Monica and took a script supervising course for like 2 months. And for that I drove 4 days a week I was staying with a great aunt in Newport Beach, and I had to drive up the 405 from Newport Beach to Santa Monica, up and back for 4 days a week. And I literally spent about 4 hours a day in the vehicle. Sitting, in the traffic. Yeah, 4 hours a day. 2 hours there and 2 hours back. I think the worst day was just over 5 hours, like when traffic was really bad that day. And so, but anyway, so I took that course, and then that course led me to move back to my hometown here in Northern California, just by a guy. That's a whole other story, but I was home on vacation, and I met some filmmakers in this area, and I was like, there's filmmakers up here? Like, I think you would have to go to a big city like LA, San Francisco, and they would be somewhere else, but I was home on vacation and met some filmmakers, and one of the filmmakers is like, well, I'm going to be making a movie up here in a couple months. And I was like, really? And I was like, well, I do script supervising work. I just graduated a script supervising course. The script supervisor is the person that sits next to the director on a film set and has the script in front of them, the whole script supervisor.
Yeah.
And they have the script, and they're the ones that watch the continuity of actors. You took your coffee mug and you took a sip with your right hand, and then you took a sip, said your line, and then you took another sip, then you set the mug down. Okay, now we're moving the camera to the other side of the room. We're filming the same scene. Okay, Mr. Actor, you have to do that same way.
With your right hand here, say the line, drink, say the line, drink. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And people that smoke cigarettes in movies, you've gotta watch the cigarette. How much of the cigarette is left while they're talking? There's some movies that they used one take where the cigarette was almost burned down, had a lot of ash on it, and then another take where it was like the cigarette had just gotten lit, and it's like the camera cuts between two people, one who has a cigarette and who's having a conversation with somebody else. And
the angles on this perspective, and then they change the perspective, and the cigarette's like it's growing or shrinking.
Yeah. If a guy and a girl are talking, the guy's smoking, girl says something, you see the guy, the cigarette's like almost burned down. Cuts back to the girl, she says something, we cut back to the guy, and he's got a fresh cigarette. Almost a fresh cigarette. We didn't see him light it. That's the script supervisor brings that stuff up.
Okay.
And the script supervisor also does circle takes. So you might do 10 takes of an actor saying a line, and the director might go to the script supervisor. Okay, in your notes, I liked takes 5, 9, and 10 on that one. The others were not good. And maybe 3 was okay, so put it as an
So
okay.
so they make notes on that, like use these 3 takes or these 4 takes.
Yeah, and that's for the editors. The editor, the director's not usually going to sit in the editing room with the editor saying, well, I like that take better. The editor just has the script supervisor notes in front of them, and they have what's called the circle takes, where on take 5, 9, and 10, the script supervisor circled those takes, and it's a circled take, meaning that's a good one.
Okay, so they know, look at those first, scrap the rest of this stuff.
Yep, yeah.
That's dog poo.
Yeah.
And we're going to pick from one of those 3 takes. Okay.
So that's what a script supervisor does. So they're very much in demand, and a good one is very hard to find. That does the whole breadth of the script supervising. Like the teacher I learned from, she was on the script supervisor on Mission Impossible 2, on Rat Race, on a bunch of movies in the 80s. So she was on top of the top.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, so I was home here in Northern California on vacation, still living in the Bay Area in San Jose, but home on vacation, met those filmmakers, decided, you know what, I'm going to move back home. And I just had it with the Bay Area and I just need mountains and trees and, and it's home. So I moved back, and so got hooked up with all these filmmakers. Well, it was shortly after I moved back that I met the director of the movie I just made, Miracle Mile, and that was Luke, who we had on the podcast. I met Luke at a filmmaker's Christmas dinner. It was actually a Christmas dinner of 2015. And so I met Luke, and I was telling this joke. Luke at the time I think he was 16, and he came up and he walked up behind me, and he used to have really long hair, like past his shoulders, and he was just standing there. And I looked over and I was like, oh, who's that little girl? And I was like, oh wait, that's a guy. And so and I always give it's joke between us, there. I met the nice little girl named Luke, and then he cut his hair eventually, and but yeah, so it's funny how those chain of events happen that lead me to where I'm at now. Do I think they're do I think they're random? No, I think there's an element of free will and God's design, but I think that I think that it's our choices with the time we have, and leads us to get where we are,
Absolutely, but you also had that goal in mind.
I had
I want to do this, and there's many paths up the mountain.
I was like, there's many paths up the mountain. I was like, one path up the mountain is I can try to stay in the Bay Area and make a movie down here.
Or move to LA and make a movie there.
Or move to LA and make a movie there. Or move back home and try to make a movie there.
Yeah.
And so that was always kind of in the back of my head. And I was like, well, my support system with people that I know and locations and vehicles and animals if I need them and actors, that's all back there. So that was my path up the mountain.
That's cool. That's cool.
So it's funny just to take all that into account.
You've seen Yellowstone.
Yep.
And all of the other spinoffs and all of that. Taylor Sheridan.
Taylor
Sheridan. His story is really interesting. Do you know about that?
Tell me.
Okay. So he was working on a TV show as like a third. He was a minor character in Sons of Anarchy or something, I believe. And the article I read about him, he had like $800 left to his name, and he was trying to get more money because the show was pretty successful. And they're like, "Look, you are a minor character, and that's probably the best you're gonna do. So just accept it." And he quit and moved back to Texas and wrote scripts and decided to this is what he's gonna do. And he wrote a movie, and it was Sicario.
Sicario, yeah.
And then wrote all the other stuff, and now he's exploded and the most popular writer right now for movies and TV shows. But it's interesting to me, wanting to he did things not the conventional way.
Yeah.
Like, forget it. I'll just quit and move home where my support system is, where I have connections, where I have family, where I have, familiarity, and I'll make this work for me here. That's a leap of faith.
Huge.
And also, like, you have to believe in yourself to a certain degree, because I'm sure that conventional wisdom says, well, there's not movies made there. There's not the activities here, and you're doing it over there. Good luck.
Yeah.
I'm sure that more than a few people said that. Like, oh, good luck.
Yeah.
That takes some fortitude.
It does, yeah. Just to really
Make it happen. Yeah.
But you look at just like the chain of events, like you look and you say, okay, I got that first gig on that movie set,
Mm-hmm.
who was from someone that I went to film school with who mentioned it, went on that movie set, earned $300 for 3 weeks.
Yeah, which at that point you could have been like, this is for the birds. I'm not making anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I got my gas paid for.
Yeah,
barely.
Yeah, they gave us breakfast, so they were
okay,
breakfast
so
and lunch.
You got breakfast, lunch, and $300 in gas.
Yeah.
But it's the connections you make. Like, if you were a jerk that whole time, complaining about like, oh, I'm only getting $300 and that breakfast burrito sucked, and if you were a butthead, you wouldn't have made any other connections. That'd have been like, well, I ain't working with this guy again. But you showed up to work every day. You did the things they asked you to do. You were happy to get that $300. You were probably happy to get breakfast and lunch. And they're like, hey, Tyler shows up. He does his job. He's not a butthead. He does what he's asked. He'd be good for this movie. He'd be good for this thing. He should go to script supervising school. He should do this. And you're like, okay, I'll do it. And then
one thing leads to another, and
opportunities. You took the opportunity and you said yes. All with the vision of the main goal.
Which is and that, yeah, with you hit it right there. With the vision of the main goal, because I said, well, if I go to script supervising school, that's the person who is literally the director's right-hand person.
Yeah.
You've got 3 people that kind of surround the director, and the director's closest people. That's the director of photography. So the director of the film directs the actors.
Mm-hmm.
The director of photography directs the camera. The first assistant director directs the crew. And then the script supervisor keeps notes on all that, on the entire film. And I was like, man, you're literally a one-person department, and you're right next to the director of a film. So what better way to learn how to make films
than be that person?
Than to be that person right next to the director. And the director usually confides into the script supervisor a lot of stuff that they don't tell anybody else. And you'll notice mistakes the director made. Like, I would notice mistakes, and I'd be like, hey, hey, look, right there, that person had their script in their pocket when they did that take, and you can actually see it in the movie. Like, we need another take, and let's
take that out.
Yeah, yeah. It's so stuff like that. That actually happened on another film set, but stuff like that. And so, yeah, and so then that was my ultimate goal, was to make movies, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna get as close as I can to the director, and be right there, and then I'm gonna learn it right there on the movies that I did. And then as soon as I got there and I started being next to movie directors, which I was a script supervisor on, I'd have to go back through and look, but it wasn't a whole lot before then I made it was like 2 or 3, maybe 4. But then I was like, oh, I can do all this stuff that they're doing. Now I just need to make the jump here.
Yeah.
And so it was just leaps from one position to another.
Huh.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just funny how that stuff. But like you talk about, the path is up the mountain.
Yeah, there's multiple ways up there.
You get there, and I really had to. We're talking about the pebble in your shoe.
Yeah.
And I really, one thing about the pebble in the shoe was one of our things for it that really came about that I really realized was part of our training in our art, which is humbling yourself and be willing to say, okay, yeah, I'm in my late 20s at that time. Oh, I'm in my late 20s, early 30s, but now I've kind of got to empty my cup, start over, take that pebble out of my shoe, which is that kind of the ego, and say, hey, I in order to get where I want to go, I need to take that pebble out of my shoe, humble myself, get rid of the ego, or turn it down, and then and then make my leaps and bounds through those positions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, funny enough, when I was doing all that, I didn't have a mentor telling me how to do that. I didn't have.
You didn't have anybody leading the way.
I didn't have anybody telling me what to do,
Yeah.
like how to do that. I was just like, okay, that just makes the most sense to me, and I'm not complaining. And if people do have a mentor to show them, that's even better.
Yeah.
They probably will make better decisions and make it faster.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think maybe you had enough experience,
Yeah.
And you had enough foresight to go, this makes the most sense.
Yeah.
This thing works. But also I think just being willing, like being open to the idea that, like, as long as I'm here doing something, like, you must love movies enough to where it's like, what do I have to do? If I want to be on this set, I'll do. Yeah, you want me to sweep the floor? Okay, I'll sweep the floor. You want me to? Well, you got it. You want me to fill your car up with gas?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll do it. It's funny. I was in a store this week, in a gas station, and it's a small little gas station, and the owner works the morning shift. He opens the store, greets customers, does all of that stuff. And there was a guy in there looking for a job, and he spoke real broken English. He was an immigrant, and he was like, "What do you want me to do? I need a job." And the owner's like, "Well, what do you do? What can you do?" He's like, "I can do anything you need me to do. If you want me to sweep, clean, mop the floor, work the register, whatever you need me to do, I can do it." And it's cool. The owner of the store is an immigrant too, and
you're watching.
I'm working. Don't get me wrong. In case anybody's listening, I was working.
You're eavesdropping.
But I was listening to the conversation, and it was a guy who was down on his luck. Like, he was hard up. He needed a job, but he wasn't begging for money or food or anything. He was like, "I want to work, and I am willing to do whatever it takes to work. So what do you want me to do?" And it was cool to see that, because you don't see that all the time in today's society, especially. You don't see people willing to be like, "No, it's not my dream to work at a gas station, but this is a means to what I need."
Yeah.
This is a means to that. Get me on that path to go where I need to go. And I didn't hear the whole conversation. They ended up going back into the office and shutting the door and talking for a minute. You can kind of hear the conversation, but like, it was just cool to see, like, that's still there. There's still people that are fighting for that.
Yeah. That are hungry for that.
Yeah. But it, if there's something you want bad enough, you got to ask yourself, well, what am I willing to do to get that? In your case, making movies. Well, what are you willing to do? What will you not do? Is what you want, where's that boundary? Where's that weight, that scale? It's like, well, I'll mop the floor, I'll sweep, whatever. Okay, yeah, here's that list is pretty long of what I will do. What I'm willing not to do, that's pretty short, Okay, let's keep going here. At least that's the way I look at things. I look at things as like, okay, this is hard. It's going to be hard. what am I, what walls do I have to climb over? What trenches do I have to dig? What do I got to do to get to this?
That I just remembered on that movie set that there was one or two individuals that I went to film school with that graduated a year before I did, or thereabouts the same time, same year. But one individual in particular was offered my position on that film set before I got it. And that position at the time when it was offered to them, I believe was offered as $150 a day. And that person said, that's not, I want a little more. And so they turned that position down. And so whatever reason, that's happened. I found this out after we were done making the movie. Okay. After we were done filming the movie. I had been paid my $300, and the movie was done. They went into editing. And I heard this from the person himself, and he said, well, I was offered $150 a day. And I was like, they offered you $150 a day? They offered me $100 a week for gas. And this person's like, they're like, yeah, and $150. That's basically they said that's beneath me. That's beneath me. That's not good. That's low for Bay Area price. And so I show up and I just do it for $300 for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And last I checked, that person was still struggling to find work in whatever area they were in filmmaking, wherever they are. But that led directly to me making my movie, and they haven't made a movie yet.
Yeah.
And so that's been a big as the Grail, the Grail guard in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade says, he chose poorly. And I'm like Indiana Jones, and he goes, you have chosen wisely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying, when you just look at the results. Well, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. But also you had the foresight to know that, okay, if I humble myself and take this $100 a week, which is gonna suck. This is be eating top ramen.
Yeah, and this was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years, it's 10 years ago.
Yeah. But you're able to move on from that and be like, well, yeah, but next time I'll have this experience and I'll have more to bring to the table. Maybe I'll meet some new people. Maybe I'll get recommended for a new job. All of that's a gamble. You didn't know any of that was going to happen.
No.
But you had an opportunity and you made the best of it.
Mm-hmm. I just said, this is a stepping stone.
And it's not like you were working on the set of the Titanic or some other major, major film. But it was an opportunity, and you did the best you could with it.
And then it turned out,
Yeah.
And I give full credit to God for laying that path out for me to do that. But at the time, I didn't. You see that in hindsight.
You see it in hindsight. Yeah.
Hindsight's 20/20.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, so those and a lot of those things too, you might take a job and it leads nowhere on stuff like that too. That's the flip side.
Yeah, it's definitely been dead ends. Absolutely. There's always dead ends. But that's just the part of life that you kind of, they suck. Those are setbacks. And it's like, oh, well, I made a wrong turn here. Hopefully I can figure it out so I don't make that wrong turn again.
U-turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can laugh at it now, but at the time you're like, crap, I gotta back up, or I gotta flip around, or I gotta do something different.
Reposition myself or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, reposition. That's a good one. I like that.
That's we do that in karate, like you were teaching today.
Yeah.
With the move today, you're saying, okay, you go in, you throw this attack, that person blocks, so now you got to reposition yourself to hit them.
Yeah, you have to move.
For that
not
drill.
Grow roots and get stagnant. That's a good spot. That's a good spot right there. I think we can end it right on that. Don't grow roots. Don't get stagnant. Grow roots, but don't get stagnant. I like roots.
Yeah.
Don't stay in the same spot. Got to move around. If we're talking martial arts. Got to move.
Yeah.
Definitely move. Friends, thank you for being with us today. Thank you for listening. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Formless Pod. You can check out our website, formlesspod.com. I think that's
it.
That's it. All right. We're going to call it there. Have a wonderful evening. Merry Christmas.
You gotta bring in